is Tuesday, November 28th, a little bit after 6:30, and this is a regular meeting of the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board. I want to welcome everyone tonight to the meeting. Members of public are attending both in person and are also remotely through YouTube Live. We have one of our board members, Sina Maymert, attending remotely as well. In a few minutes, I will read the rules of order for public comment at governing board meetings. If you wish to make a comment remotely, you should have signed up using the Google form that's available under the YouTube Live description. If you do not see the link to the Google form, you may have to refresh your YouTube live stream to find it. If you're attending in person, the purple form, request to address the governing board, looking like this, is available on the table in the back of the room. If there is a public hearing during a meeting and you wish to make a comment during the hearing, you may sign up prior to the meeting, or you will have another opportunity to do so when we open the hearing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you all to rise and stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I'm now going to read the rules of order for public comment at a governing board meeting. The governing board welcomes public comment at its meetings by providing 2 opportunities to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comment time slot near the beginning of the meeting. Or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. In the event there is a public hearing, the opportunity to speak will be reopened. If you are joining remotely and wish to make a public comment, you should have already submitted the Google form provided with the YouTube link. And I'm assuming, Ryan, that form has been open. Okay, thank you. For those attending in person, please hand a completed purple form, request to address the governing board, to our board secretary. The information requested on the form is required for our meeting minutes. Speakers will be called on when it's their turn to address the board. Each speaker would have 2 minutes to address the board. The sound of a buzzer indicates the end of your 2 minutes. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may limit that time so they can conduct the business on the agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community that they are aware of the topics that will be discussed this evening. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communication, board members' contact information can be found on our district's website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting. Thank you for coming. Okay, with that, we're going to turn to a very exciting portion of our agenda, item 1.4, which is our Deep Learning Showcase. Tonight, we're going to be featuring the Financial Learning Showcase Study video by Orange Grove 8th graders, and our social studies teacher, Dawn Willman, is here to speak with us and introduce our video.
Actually, I'm going to introduce
Oh, you're going to do it, okay. Sorry, Dawn, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
You didn't want to put her on the spot. In 7th and 8th grade social studies, students analyze personal financial principles, including the relationship between interest rates, savings, credits, investments, and returns. To help bring this learning to life at Orange Grove, Dawn Willman students take on a role of a financial advisor to their clients in a mock setting. So to put their clients on the road to a more secure financial future, the students examine the factors that influence spending decisions and then create a proposed budget and a set of recommendations for their clients. Students present their findings and analysis to the entire class, and in this video, students share their learning in their own words. So after the video, Ms. Willman will be available to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Only behind you. Okay. Any place for this? Okay.
Because you're financial advisor, we analyze your financial situation. It is compiled a list of recommendations to help you reach your financial goals and manage your finances in a stress-free way in order to be prepared for the future. Right now, updated the what we're learning about this year. So because many adults learned that doing it when we're like 30 and we don't. We're saving for retirement.
So the case study is the teacher gives us a person, for example, and we have to like solve their financial problems and like give them financial advice to help them get out of the trouble that they might be in financially.
We learned like a ton of strategies, and then the case study was kind of more like we went through like their portfolio because we got like a ton of info, we got like 2 pages of like their financial statement, what they do, how they act, where they work, their past credit scores, their degrees, stuff like that.
There's a series of things. You more or less turn into this presentation, which you simulate and share with your client, which will more or less just be saying like how you solve issues.
Because of how much like we learned about it, how much research we had to do, it made like everything just like clearer and made it like click into place. It like put things in perspective because we're becoming real people and have to be like not just about what's right, but about like what going on.
I think at first, like when you see all the different parts of the assignment, was very overwhelming. But then once we slow down, like it's step by step, it was a lot easier to finish.
We identified the problems, what they were doing well, and things that we think would be good to talk about. As you can see, over the many topics here investing, we make a lot of profit for good causes, but also notice how you invested in 401ks, balanced mutual funds, blue chip stocks, CDs, corporate bonds, and more. This is called diversifying your investments.
So one of them was named Mary. She had a lot of debt, so we had to make a new budget for her. And a lot of that I put me our money all put into just paying off the credit cards as quick as possible.
Like I didn't realize how easy it was to like fall behind like on the money. Like the family we were looking at would right when we first looked at it, we were like, oh, they don't have like much going on. But as we like got more into the unit and like we dug deeper, like we like had too much stuff to put in our presentation, and that like there's stuff that's unseen that you might not think about. Like, oh, I'm only $2,500 in debt. Like I can pay that off within the next 10 years, but then maybe 10 years later, you might be $10,000 into debt. You have to think about every single aspect that you're doing because it's going to affect not only your financial present, but also your future and your kids' futures too. I think it made me realize like how difficult this type of thing actually is. Yeah, we were running out of time. We had to cut a ton of things out of our script because there was so much to say. Like attaching the notes. Yeah, she really did. Well, she explained everything in depth, but like really quickly for like the time she
Please tell me that this is done in every 8th grade social studies class in the district.
Well, I can't speak for all 8th grade classes, but at Orange Grove, yes, it's our tradition for about 20 years now that we do this personal finance unit. And it's an Orange Grove tradition, I'm just the current person doing it.
That's half of what I wanted to hear. This is like my favorite all-time showcase, only because, as most of us know, these guys nailed it, right? I mean, we spend 12 years in school and nobody can balance a checkbook and mail. Everybody runs up credit cards, buys too expensive a car. So to see this is, I wish everybody did this all the time. So, but
Nobody writes
can we get a
checks.
Spurl on the phone? Can we see
Nobody writes checks anymore, Jeff.
if they find a way to get in debt at 1800?
It's true. It's
That,
true.
that's fantastic. Yeah.
I remember when my kids did that with Mr. Flynn many years ago. And I remember I saw something in the video. I saw in the corner there was something on the board that says something about blue chip stocks. I don't remember it being like that. I remember it being more like covering expenses and credit card debt and that sort of thing. But I have to agree, this was one of my favorite and most exciting units that, you know, my kids came home talking about, and that I think is not only practical, not only facilitating really important conversations with their families, but, you know, some of the things that I saw up there, like kids saying, well, issue spotting, you know, identifying a problem is a really important step in any kind of, you know, critical thinking that can be applied anywhere. And then also, there was a student who said, it seemed really big and overwhelming, but if you broke it down into smaller pieces, then we were able to deal with the problem. And that, again, is a lesson that can be applied in any content area inside and outside of school, which I think really exemplifies, you know, what we're trying to do here for our students. So I really, really appreciate this lesson. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good. Gina? You good?
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to the video, or Mark, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm happy to add. I could.
Please.
I'll talk for hours. I'm with Doug. I love this project. My
Yeah.
sons went through it. They were Orange Grove Panthers, and they would come home and truly question me. Like, Dad, how much are you putting away for retirement? And is that a Roth IRA or is that a traditional IRA? And it was fantastic. And now from the kind of the principal view of things, it is amazing to see kids along the way in the project. And also on the day when they're really, you know, putting it all together and acting as consultants. I remember talking to
tied for first in the state. Then the next year, we took first in one division and second, third in another division. We tend to do pretty well. Statewide competition.
So there's even greater extension for those kids that really get invested in it. And those kids come in on Sundays.
Wow.
Middle school, they'll learn about economics.
It's great.
Testament, I think, to the work that Ms. Bowman and our other social studies teachers are doing.
So my kids went to Esperero, so now I have to do this. They're all in college and they're very expensive. Change that.
Yes, Julie.
One of the things that I had to cut out of the video is that many of the students said to me that the interview was, wish the high school offered something like this, and I said they actually
They do.
so, you are in. Further this,
Yeah.
Great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming this evening and sharing this with us. Julie, thank you. I assume you had something to do with the video as well. Thank you once again for putting together a quality piece of information for our board. We really do appreciate the Deep Learning Showcase is one of our favorite things to do at a board meeting. So thank you. I appreciate it. And the kids, they were great.
Great.
They were really, I mean, their comments were so sophisticated. I know. I don't remember my kids doing this, but my kids are a lot older than everyone else's kids here, so I don't remember. That probably says more about me than it says about anything else. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we now move to our public comment portion of the meeting. We still have no public comment forms. Good night.
See you guys.
We have nothing online, no purple forms, so we have no public comments. So I'm going to go ahead and move through that to item 3 on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that they wish to pull from the consent agenda? And does anyone have any comments or questions regarding our items on our consent agenda?
I would like to point out a few of my usual things that I like to point out on the consent agenda, because even though these are items that appear week after week, I think they speak to some important work that is done in the district. And the first is on the field trip memorandum. This week we have a bunch of things. I don't have it open. I recall it being community schools. Community schools programming for the summer, which is, such a wonderful extension of our learning and offering for students in grades 4 through 8. And these are all field trips to learn about science and ecosystems. And I think it's just an amazing opportunity for our kids. Our fundraising memorandum is not the fundraising memorandum, sorry. The
Gifts and donations?
Gifts and donations memorandum, again, are items from our individuals, but FFOs and also the band boosters. And again, I like to express our appreciation for the partnership that this district has with organizations like FFOs and band boosters, and also individuals who support our schools and our students in so many ways. And also, just briefly on the personnel memorandum, this week, I've been on this board for, I'm going on the end of 9 years, and just, under the heading of you always learn something new, I realized I didn't really understand why sometimes we see volunteers on the personnel memo. We don't always see volunteers, sometimes we do, and so I asked, who are these volunteers that we're approving? And so what I learned is that volunteers who have to be approved by the board are non-parent or non-custodial parents or guardians who choose, so grandparents, friends, uncles, other family members, but if they're not the parent or the legal guardian, then they go through a process where they have to be cleared, fingerprint clearance, and then approved by the board. So that's why we're seeing, those are the volunteers that we're seeing. And again, it speaks to the human capital that we have and that we so greatly appreciate and that has benefited in all of our schools. So that's that. Those are my comments.
I always love your synopses of our consent agendas. Amy. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions on any of the items?
Make a motion.
Please do.
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 3.1, the governing board November 14th, 2023 regular meeting minutes as presented, 3.2, the expense voucher memorandum as presented, 3.3, the field trip request memorandum as presented, 3.4, the fundraising request memorandum as presented, 3.5, the personnel memorandum as presented, and 3.6, the acceptance with gratitude of the gifts and donations memorandum as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further commentary, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. We're mixing things up a little bit and jumping into our first item of new business for this evening. This is something that doesn't come up very often, and we wanted to highlight it at the beginning of our meeting, and that is item 4.1, approval of the appointment of CFSD's next superintendent to be effective July 1, 2024. So upon signing her current contract with CFSD in the spring of 2021, Dr. Kammerzell informed the board that this would be her final contract as superintendent of the district. She stated her intent to move on to other professional opportunities. Dr. Kammerzell's contract will be complete in June of next year, and at that time, she will have spent 28 years at the helm of our school district. If you know anything about public education in the state, and for that matter in the country, that simply does not happen. 28 years is what you would call an outlier. And in what will likely go down as the understatement of the year, CFSD has been fortunate to benefit from the visionary leadership of Dr. Mary Kammerzell for these many years. And as much as the board regrets the impending end of what has been a remarkable, productive, congenial, and symbiotic relationship, the board has been diligently preparing for this event. Choosing, employing, and managing an effective superintendent is the primary responsibility for which board members are elected by our constituents. To do this, any board needs to understand the district and the qualities a person would need to lead the district. And as we worked through this process, I was extremely grateful for my fellow board members, all of whom had spent several years volunteering in the district prior to their board service. 4 of us have spent multiple terms on the board. I'm working on finishing my 3rd term. The Amy's have just started their 3rd term, and Doug is nearing the end of his 2nd term. And we were also uniquely advantaged by the strength of our newest board member, Gina Maymert, who brought her extensive experience working at the executive levels of a Fortune 500 company to the table. During the course of our experiences with CFSD, all of us have learned a lot about our district, a lot about the board-superintendent relationship, and what it takes to make that work. Because of our past experiences, this group was well positioned to make this all-important decision. Given CFSD's premier standing among public education districts, I felt we needed a superintendent who knew and loved our district, who could work within the systems so carefully developed over the last 3 decades, who was committed to our mission as a caring and collaborative learning community, who would strive to deliver learning that transfers to life beyond CFSD, enabling students to flourish in college, in careers, and as responsible citizens of our global community. We needed, at the helm of our ship, a person who had deep local knowledge and a strong established relationships in our district. Lucky for us, we had in our midst someone who has spent 14 years in our district, first in a principal role and then in several district administration positions of increasing responsibility. Someone who had an interest in becoming a superintendent, a person who's worked side by side with Dr. Kamerzel and has experience in every facet of district leadership. An expert in educational leadership, curriculum design, teacher development. That person is, of course, Dr. Denise Bartlett. And in the course of our interviewing and evaluation process, my conviction that Dr. Bartlett was the person for this job was solidified. I am convinced that Dr. Bartlett is uniquely qualified to lead this district into its next phase of growth. And so with that, I would like to open this agenda item for discussion. Would anyone like to comment or add?
I'll add.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I'll be shorter than you probably.
I'm the shortest, always.
You are. There's a lot of things I could say about Dr. Bartlett. But the one that hits me right out of the chute is I love your demeanor. I love the cool demeanor. I love the chill persona. And you might be thinking I'm not always like that, but that's how you present yourself, and that's all we see.
That's my husband.
Well, if he takes the brunt, that's fine. But I think that's so important, and I think it's going to serve you well. I would argue this is not only a tough job. This could be the hardest job there is, especially right now. Public school superintendent, and as we all know, over the last 5 years or so, there's been a lot more attention placed on public schools. We'll just say that much. And you have many stakeholders, right? You've got the parents, you've got the kids, you've got the teachers, you've got the administrators. And with all those stakeholders, and then, you've got children, you've got young adults. So with all that brewing together, you're gonna have a lot of emotion. It's just the way it is. And I know there's gonna be a lot of issues you're gonna have to face. And there's always that desire to want to hop in and pass judgment quickly, get to a resolution, and you just can't do it, as we've seen from our current superintendent. As my dad always said, there's 3 sides to every story. There's his side, there's her side, and there's a truth, and it takes a while to get to the truth. And I think, like, again, your very measured approach is going to be, I think, really important when you're tackling. Well, you've already tackled a lot of them, but it's going to be that much further up the food chain. So, yeah, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm looking forward to continue working with you. And I love the chill.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Amy?
Sure. I was just looking, I didn't want to step on anyone's toes out there. So, yeah, I don't want to repeat what Eileen said, because she said a lot of things that are worth repeating, but I think that of all the duties that school board members have under Arizona law, and they're all, listed, I think perhaps the most consequential to student success is this one, the hiring of a superintendent. And this is an obligation that we haven't had to undertake in almost 3 decades. And like Eileen said, because we've had this incredible good fortune of having Dr. Kamerzel as our superintendent for so long, I know that I hope we'll have another opportunity to shine a light on her accomplishments and to express our gratitude to Dr. Kamerzel. But as for Dr. Bartlett, for the past 13 years, you have worked alongside Dr. Kamerzel as the assistant superintendent from 2012 to 2022, and then interim director of human resources when you thought you were going to retire, but you never really retire from here, and now as the associate superintendent. And I firmly believe that the path to student success starts with the superintendent's office. And so There are many data points by which student success is measured, and in CFSD, I think that all or nearly all of them, by any of those measures, we know that our students are learning and growing and thriving. And that is kudos to Dr. Connery, who's present as well, for her many years in the superintendent's office. So, you know, we recently learned that for the second year in a row, all 7 of our schools earned A letter grades from the Department of Education, and one of our elementary schools, Sunrise Drive, just earned the blue ribbon from the U.S. Department of Education. And although Valley View Preschool isn't given a letter grade, I think Valley View is very much part of the CFSD continuum in terms of curriculum and the professionalism of staff and operating in a culture of a caring community of learners. And then on the other end of that continuum, our recent latest graduation rate from the high school is 96.79%. And I mention that because Dr. Bartlett has been a key figure in paving our district's road to success for many years. And that is one of the primary reasons, although not the only reasons, that I support Dr. Bartlett's nomination and appointment to lead us into the future. I mentioned a little earlier that I'm about to complete my 9th year of school board service, and over those years, I, along with my board colleagues, have observed firsthand Dr. Bartlett's professionalism and dedication, and depth of knowledge in all areas of the substantive education that we discuss at this board table, as well as all areas of district operations, from human resources to staffing to student discipline to policies, both mundane, more mundane and less mundane, and more important and less important, and she has also been involved in every aspect of the budgeting process, which is hugely impactful on how a district operates. And yet, Dr. Bartlett still underwent a very rigorous interview process. And like Eileen said, I'm very grateful to my board colleagues, particularly Gina and Eileen, who spent countless hours to ensure that the process was thorough and designed to be fair and effective. And to my fellow board members, I appreciate the seriousness with which this responsibility was taken by all of us. We spent a great deal of time vetting Dr. Bartlett and talking about how her skill set aligns with our goals and the district's needs. And having done all of that, I have concluded that Dr. Bartlett has the qualifications, the skills, the experience, and the growth mindset to meet the challenges of public education today and to continue building on CFSD's solid foundation of student success. And therefore, I enthusiastically support the motion to appoint Dr. Bartlett as CFSD's next superintendent. Great, thank you. Not short.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Okay. It's a big moment. Other Amy?
Yes, I'll add on as well. I was trying to figure out my educational years based on, you said 9 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 9 years, and I was in the classroom 11 years. So my 20 years of education, including this board, I worked with 4 different superintendents and boards. And they're very different, let me tell you. Like, you can have boards like this that are just not boards. Administrative teams like this, they're just outstanding. And then you can have some that are not quite as strong. And I feel like I've been so fortunate to work with this administration. Really from day one, I was just kind of blown away by how they are so good at putting students first and still like not missing all the little details. Like, they really are just pretty incredible. And I could go into long stories, which I won't, about teams that maybe aren't quite so good, and some interesting stories, but it suffices to say that this team is exceptional. And I was a little biased toward Dr. Bartlett from day one because I knew she came from Madison, and I was taught in Phoenix for a long time, and Madison is much like Cat Foothills, and that it is an outstanding district. It puts its students first, and really makes do with, what it has, which, as we know in Arizona monetarily, is not always a lot, but they really do a good job of managing all that. And so from day one, I was like, oh, well, we've got Dr. Bartlett. We're in good hands. That's before I even really knew Dr. Connery or Dr. Camersell at all. But I knew that was like a shining star for me. That I knew she had to be good if she was coming out of there. So, and I've loved working with Dr. Bartlett. She is so smart. She is student centered, and I think she's always willing to get answers for us, which I really appreciate. A lot of times after meetings, we come out thinking like, well, wait, what about this or what about that? And I know that I can shoot her an email and say, hey, did we really cover this topic? Or, I wasn't sure if my question was quite answered. And that within 24 hours, I'll have an email with a more thorough answer to whatever I was looking for. So I appreciate that. She's always willing to go the extra mile to get answers for me on anything that I've, had follow-up questions on. And so, that's hard to come by. Somebody who's willing to, not take that personally and always be willing to come back and say, no, here's what I think you were asking. And I appreciate that. So I think that's all I have to add, because you guys did a good job of hitting everything. But yeah, it's been awesome to work with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Gina? Gina? Thank you, Gina. Anything else in terms of discussion or commentary on this agenda item? And if not, I need a motion.
Me?
You're senior.
I move that the governing board approve the appointment of Dr. Bartlett as superintendent of the Catalina Foothills School District effective July 1, 2024, and approve the superintendent contract as presented.
We have a motion to approve the nomination of Dr. Denise Bartlett as our next superintendent and the contract as presented. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Dr. Bartlett.
A standing ovation by your colleagues is probably more meaningful than
Very meaningful.
any.
This is a really big deal, and I want to throw it over to you here, Denise, to address the board here a little bit and address our constituency here on your feelings this evening.
Well, I have prepared a few comments. Thank you, President Jackson and the governing board, for your confidence in me as leading the Catalina Foothills School District into the next era. It's a privilege to work and serve the students, staff, families, and community. I've continued to serve in many capacities, and serving our community is a joy that I have. I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to transition into this role under the guidance and mentorship of Mary Camerzell through June 2024. And I will utilize that time well. I assure you that. I have created a detailed 100-day plan that specifies the work that I will do during the transition, and I'll just outline a little bit of that for you and for others. The strategic plan will continue to be the core of our work. I remain committed to the mission, vision, core values, and the goals. I look forward to continuing the work that has already been underway and strengthening that work. During the time, I will raise my visibility within the community through the participation at school and community events, such as the district and school FFO meetings, making classroom visits, and attending other school and community-sponsored events. I plan to accompany and shadow Dr. Camerzell as she conducts the more public side of the work that we're going to continue to do. I will assume a listening and learning and understanding focus to fully engage with stakeholders through existing events and meetings in order to gain insights into key events and issues and concerns that influence or have influenced the school district, as well as learn about the goals and expectations that our students have, our staff, and our community all have. I will engage a facilitator to organize a listen, learn, and lead focus groups with stakeholders to seek out targeted insights and perspectives. And I'll continue to demonstrate my commitment to building and empowering relationships and soliciting the voices of others so that we have a shared meaning of success and what it will take to attain it. That's very important. I'm committed to continuing the legacy of CFSD and building upon the deep culture, traditions, and history of the district and serving all students. I want to thank you again for your confidence in me as the next superintendent of the Catalina Foothills School District. I'm very excited about the future.
As are we. So are we.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Momentous occasion this evening.
Yes.
This does not happen too often in the CFSD district.
No.
I wish Mary was here. I do believe that Dr. Camerzell is on the phone listening, so hopefully you heard all of the kudos that we have for you. There will be more later. This has just got me a little flippant.
I know.
Thank you.
And once again, you don't get to retire.
No. We're really hoping that Mark's behind all
This
of
isn't
this.
news to your husband, is it? I hope.
We're really hoping that that's all okay with Mark. All right, well,
Wonderful.
wonderful. All right, we will move on with the rest of our meeting. Now we're going to go back to unfinished business from 2 weeks ago with item 5.1, the approval of revisions to policy GCC, professional/support staff leaves and absences. This is a second reading, and it is an action item, and we will turn it over to Denise Bartlett, current Associate Superintendent.
So, this is the second reading of the policy GCC, professional support staff leaves and absences. And after the first reading, there was a recommended change, and that was on page 31, under family illness. There was a phrase that said whichever is less, as far as when an employee could use a part or any accumulated short-term leave or 12 weeks of leave. And in my research with Proposition 206, that is not part of that, so we are going to remove that. There's no reason to maintain that wording in there. So I have removed that wording as part of the second reading. The first reading included areas, so what we really did was revise this so that what is actually stated is our practice. So instead of having the word employed, we have the word worked. So it's actually your designated leave accrual, or the amount of time that you're getting for your leave is basically on the time that you've worked. We've separated the two paragraphs for the certified personnel and the classified personnel, just to keep those separate because they do accrue them differently. So they are separated. And then on page 30 at the bottom, we have in the fourth paragraph, classified exempt was added to the list of employees who may not take short-term leave until it's accrued. And then we've also added in the fourth paragraph the classified administrators as a list of employees who may use unaccrued short-term leave. So it's just granted to them up front. And then finally, on page 31, we've added that we can require a physician's note after 3 or more consecutive days of absence. And that is in line with Proposition 201 from 2017. Any questions?
This is GCC, right?
This is GCC, correct?
Okay, so I was looking at the right one, because I'm not looking at it in the PDF, I'm looking at it on the
Okay.
Word book, so I have different pages, so I just wanted to make sure this is not substantive, but on the version that I'm looking at, the adopted date needs to be changed to tonight. Is that how it is on yours too? Mine says April 18th.
Yeah, it does say the old date.
You're correct, yes.
Leave it to me to master the minutia. Yes.
Normally that'd be Carol's job.
Carol can't talk tonight.
Thank you, I will make that change.
Okay.
Sure she got it.
So just to clarify, the only change from the prior reading was that phraseology, whichever is less. Everything else was presented and discussed
That is correct.
at our prior board meeting. Okay? Does anyone have anything else they wish to discuss on this particular policy? And if not, I
I
would
move that
entertain.
the governing board approve the revisions to policy GCC professional/support staff leaves and absences as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I almost forgot.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, continuing on with Dr. Bartlett in item 5.2, the approval of revisions to policy BCB, board member conflict of interest, again, a second reading action item.
Yes, so the next 3 policies are minor revisions to basically board member policies that we have. So policy BCB, there were no recommended changes after the first reading, and the only change that we did is we added language to say that the district is allowed to employ any person who served as a member of the governing board during the preceding 2 years only in the position of providing services to students, and that the district may increase the 2-year time restriction. So that is a new part of this policy. I think it was brought about by some rural districts who were having a difficult time hiring people to work with students, and there was that provision about board members not being able to be hired.
Boy, if they have to reach out to the 5 board members, that is a very small school district,
You
isn't
see
it?
that happen though all the time at our conferences.
That's true. Yeah, districts with 3 board members or whatever.
Right. So that's the only language. There's nothing else. that
Nothing
was
else different from the prior
different from
night?
the first.
And it does look like the date has been changed on this one.
Yes.
Okay. Pretty basic change. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about on this one? I would entertain a motion.
I move that the governing board approve revisions to policy BCB, board member conflict of interest, as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 5.3, approval of revisions to policy BDA, board organizational meeting. This is a second reading and an action item, Dr. Bartlett.
Again, there were no additional revisions after the first reading that we shared with you. And this policy, it's in response to House Bill 2663, which extends the time period in which the governing board must hold an organizational meeting. So the language is revised to state that the governing board must meet in January following the election for the purpose of organizing the board. Other revisions include who may call the meeting in order until a new board president is elected, and the addition of a statement that the board may elect a board president at any time as long as the election is handled in a way consistent with Arizona open meeting law.
Comments or questions on this one?
Well, I
I
mean,
know you.
there are scenarios that will make this challenging,
Yes.
but we're not facing those scenarios at the moment. But, and just to be aware, so, for example, if the president of the board is no longer on the board in January, then there is nobody who is authorized to call a meeting to order. So it would be incumbent on the board in December
In December.
to elect a president or to elect a temporary
Correct.
person who is authorized to do that
Correct.
in January. So,
That is
Just
something,
as a heads up.
yes, we would have to anticipate if we were in that position.
yes.
To have the organizational meeting, either have the whole organizational meeting before January, or at the very least, appoint that temporary person to run that meeting. If we find ourselves in that position.
Right. So we got to keep it in mind.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for bringing up that point of clarification, Amy. Anything else on this one? I'll look for another motion.
I move the governing board approve revisions to policy BDA, board organizational meeting, as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Did you say second, Gina? I keep looking at you over there. I'm so sorry. I cannot get used to it over here. Gina is a second. So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, we're moving right along to item 5.4, school board meetings, a second reading. This is policy BE. Action item, Dr. Bartlett.
Again, the second reading, there were no changes after the first reading. This is in response to Arizona Senate Bill 1270. That means the first paragraph is revised to include a sentence that states, except for a meeting through technological devices, the agenda and notice shall also include the time that the public will have physical access to the meeting site. We have already been doing that, so it's just now in our policy.
And the paragraph about seating.
Yeah, the sufficient
addition.
seating.
Sufficient seating,
Yes.
which is also what we have been doing.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct. Correct, because there's no expectation that you move the meeting to accommodate a larger number.
And it's also one of the reasons why we have chosen to just continue to live stream our meetings. I mean, our meetings have been relatively small over the last several board meetings, but we have unlimited capacity when we are online. So that also helps us meet the responsibilities of these policy changes in policy BE. Who knows? Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, and I think, Gina, because it says the board must provide sufficient seating to accommodate reasonably anticipated number of attendees, then, the seating obviously is hand in glove with capacity. So I think yes.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. Right.
Yeah.
No, the statute is clear. There's no expectation that you have to move sites, locations.
We've exceeded seating twice in 7 years, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now obviously are more aware of that and don't do that anymore. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of issues with moving as well. I mean, we don't have the technology in another place. We don't have, so it.
Not feasible.
Not feasible. I think it's pretty, I think the statute's clear. I mean, the policy's clear.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
I move the governing board approve revisions to policy BE, school board meetings as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then finally, 5.5, approval of revisions to policy BEDA, notification of board meetings, second reading, action item. Dr. Barth.
Actually, this is the one that I was, yes. So this
They
is the
both said
paragraph
it.
that is, except for technological devices, the agenda notice shall be also included the time and the public will have, the time the public will have access to the meeting site. That's the only addition to this policy. It was also in that other policy.
Okay.
And again, that's something we've been doing
We have
for a
been doing
while.
that, yes.
I move the governing
Sweet.
board approve revisions to policy BEDA, notification of board meetings as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And that closes up unfinished business for the evening and brings us now to section 6 of our meeting. We're going back to new business. Item 6.1 is the consideration of high school career and technical education course standards for the 2024-2025 business management, film and TV, and technical theater programs. This is a first reading. Dr. Mary Jo Connery and Cheryl Castro are here to present for us.
Thank you, and I'd like to first start off by saying what a pleasure it has been to come back and work with our career technical education instructors, on this very important curriculum work and the classes that they teach our students every day at the high school. So what we're bringing to you tonight for your consideration of approval are the revised course standards for the career and technical education programs, business management, film and TV, and technical theater. All of the course standards were updated to reflect the most current standards provided by the Arizona Department of Education's Career and Technical Education Department. And then also, we are presenting to you a second course option for the Business Management 2, a course that's in the Business Management program pathway. So in all, the work that we did was a standards revision for 10 courses, and we also then wrote the new course for the additional Business Management 2 option. And I'd like to introduce you to two of our instructors that are here this evening, and that is Jason Reinhardt and Madison Tweedy. They are both business management instructors who will be available after I do a general summary for specific questions from you about the new option for Business Management 2. I'd also like to recognize Jacob Robinson, who is the instructor for the film and TV courses, and Amy Byrode, who is the instructor for the technical theater as well as the theater arts courses at the high school. And when you think about these program pathways, whether they have 3 or 4 courses in the pathway and in internships, these instructors are prepping for and teaching multiple courses in a pathway every day at the high school. I'd also like to recognize Carrie Burson, who's the CTE JTED director, who was also part of our standards revision, and of course Cheryl, our executive director of curriculum and assessment, who has also been a pleasure to work with. But I'd like to begin with the business management program because Jason and Madison are here to answer any questions that you might have about that new course option. As you can see from the board memo, there are currently 3 courses that are available in the business management pathway: Business Management 1, Business Management 2, and Business Management 3. And again, they were updated to reflect the Arizona Department of Education's 2021 CTE technical standards. And all of those standards are developed and validated by an industry technical standards validation committee and a career and technical education quality commission that is part of Arizona's Career and Technical Education Department. The standards for each of the courses in the business management pathway had not been updated since 2018, so that wasn't too far back. But the new standards that became available by the CTE division at the Arizona Department of Education became available in 2022-23. So now all of the courses in the business management pathway reflect those current standards. We also created a second option for students who enroll in Business Management 2, and that's Applied Business Systems. So after completing Business Management 1, then students would have the opportunity to select Business Development and Administration or Applied Business Systems as the second course in the pathway based on their interests. The Business Development and Administration course focuses on business careers or entrepreneurial endeavors and human resource management, building on the entrepreneurship and operations focus of Business Management 1. It also prepares students for post-secondary programs like business management, business administration, operations and supply chain management, marketing, and entrepreneurship. The students can earn the Rise Up Retail Industry Certification in this course. And that certification credential focuses on entry-level retail operations and ensures that students have the skills and knowledge required for entry-level work in all aspects of the retail industry, including things like sales, customer service, warehouse, and distribution. The other option, the Applied Business Systems course, which is the new option that students can select to take, will give them the opportunity to focus on project management and business applications, as well as business budgeting, accounting, and finance principles, leading to either the Intuit QuickBooks credential or the Microsoft Office certifications. They would choose one or the other. Either certification is a relevant choice for students working toward a CPA certification and entering the workplace, or for moving into post-secondary programs in accounting, finance, management information systems, or into a similar concentration within other business programs. The reason we would like to add this option is due to student interest. I was told by Carrie Burson that there are students who want to take a deeper dive into accounting and information management. And so we actually began looking at this second option in January of 2022. But due to several factors such as teacher certification, the need for more FTE in business management, no room in Jason's schedule to teach any more classes, it was decided that we would look at this again in the future, and that time has come, and that's what we're presenting tonight, is that second option for students after completing Business Management 1. Obviously, both Business Management 2 options will funnel into the third-year internship course, Business Management 3. I provided for you in the memo the course description for business management 3, and the only thing that I wanted to just mention to you is that I did leave out the second option for the Microsoft Office certification. And so when I bring this back to you for the second reading, that last sentence will state that students will learn the skills needed to achieve Microsoft Office or QuickBooks, certification. They would choose one or the other. So with that, I've just provided a general summary. I wanted to bring Madison and Jason up to the front here. And if you have questions for them specifically about the second option for students in the pathway, I will let them take over and answer those questions at this point.
Hello, board.
If there's anything else you want to add to, because
Please do,
I didn't
yeah.
include the details of that course.
I think you included kind of enough for at least this first reading. But yeah, really the whole idea behind this is we've got such a high student demand, and we have such a huge number of students that transition not just into business management and administrative programs post-secondary, but so many are choosing management of information systems and accounting and finance. And we were so lucky to find Miss Tweedy and bring her on for our finance classes. And with her background in accounting, this is the time. We finally have the teacher and the space to meet the student demand for that kind of more focused deep dive into those two different components to help kind of build our program even bigger.
Great.
I love JTED.
He's
It's like my favorite thing. It's the only reason my kid got into the school he's at was because of JTED. It's another story, another time. I should know this. How long has the business management pathway been around?
Well, this is my 9th year, and so it took me a couple years to kind of get things up and moving. We've had the 3rd course now for 4 or 5 years, 4 years. So we're kind of capped with what one teacher can do at this point. With our Business 1, which is that entrepreneurial focus, Business 2, which is the development focus, where the students are out there working with different companies around the city, and then our work-based learning or internship year 3. And so, yeah, in its state right now, about 4 years.
Is it the most sought after pathway? It's got to be close.
If there was 6 of us, I think we could
That's
meet
kind of
the
what I was
student
thinking.
demand.
Right.
Businesses.
How many kids are involved in the pathway? Do we have a feel for that?
What do we got? 190 some students this year.
Wow, and you see them all.
I too. Yes.
You see them all in Business Management 1.
Yeah, both in the classroom as well as then all of our interns that are out there around the city right now as well. Yeah, and it doesn't include.
Career exploration classes, the 2 one-semester classes.
Gotcha.
That's another set of classes.
Yeah, so Madison was able to take over, again, one of our kind of more higher demand course loads, which is the personal finance and consumer finance, career preparation and career exploration courses as well. So, and how many students do you have in your first year?
130?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then you're also taking on this Applied Business Systems course?
Yes, next year.
Fingers crossed.
And because you have so much extra time in your day,
Yes.
you've also worked on updating these standards. Can you tell us a little bit about that process, how long it took, what it took, how many people, that sort of thing?
Well, for the program itself, that's something, as soon as I start to get the new standards in and kind of hear from people at the state level that things are changing, I've constantly been kind of updating things as we go. And we're able to finally get the time this year to formalize it and make all of those crosswalks. And it took a few days worth of work, long days of very dedicated work over here. And so, yeah, and then when it came to this accounting course, Madison and I, and then our wonderful other associates here, collaborated on putting together not only the kind of crosswalk for the standards, for the state standards, as well as the finance and accounting standards, but then the annual plan for that as well. So, yeah, it's been a little bit of work.
Does the state provide value-added changes? Is this stuff that you look at and go, oh, good, this is a good idea?
I feel that the the state standards as they are right now are a good starting point, but our students are capable of much higher levels of engagement and
Okay.
broader engagement with the content.
They don't tie your hands, you're still able
Not
to.
at all.
Okay, that's kind of.
They provide the floor, not the ceiling.
Correct.
That's,
Yeah.
And the internships, how many kids do we have involved in Business Management 3, and where, what kinds of internships are they doing?
So we've got 9 this year, and we've got students at mining companies. We've got a student who's working with a consulting firm that handles nonprofits and connecting nonprofits to donors and high net worth individuals in the community. We've got a person at a production facility downtown who handles all of the marketing and layout for all the menus of our favorite restaurants downtown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're all over the place. We've had them at law firms over the years, accounting firms, a lot. A lot of students are definitely driven to getting into accounting firms as much as they can. We've had it at all the major hospitals on the business or administrative side of things. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
do you have a list of options and then they can also go out and find their own? Is that kind of how it works?
No, the way I structured it, because it is kind of like a hybrid, it's not just a straight up, here's an internship like a lot of the other districts in our region do. There is a heavy academic and rigorous component to it. So it really is a work-based learning project as opposed to just a straight internship or externship. And so part of their summer work in between Business 2, whichever one they're going to be taking, and their acceptance into Business 3, they have to go out, knock on doors and cold call businesses, and come back at the beginning of the year with 3 options of contacts that they've made that are willing to speak to us a little bit more about hosting a high school student during the school year. So they work very hard for it.
In addition, our internship coordinator.
Yeah.
Such a help because she doesn't know the onboarding with them. She helps them write those cold calls. She
Yeah.
helps them answer emails that they don't know how to necessarily navigate. She's done things like perfection.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
yeah, come on, Karen.
Come on up.
Sorry about that, Gina. So I wanted to just compliment the additional FTE we did with the internship coordinator. So we have a part-time internship coordinator. She primarily works with our business and our sports medicine interns. She does help them kind of brainstorm who to reach out to, but then she's very good about working with them. Okay, how would you write an email to kind of do that cold call? Let's write a resume that you can present to them. What should you wear to this? So she does a lot of that with the students after they do the research between the summer. And so we try to place everyone by September to ensure that they're actively out in the workplace by that point. She also collects their hours and they check in with her and they understand how to communicate with her on anything that's happening. So they can start to understand, okay, this is what it's like also to have a boss and how do you, what's the appropriate way to communicate. So that's been a great addition
Yeah.
to supporting the work that the teachers are doing since they're in the classroom most of the day.
Because we also do site visits, so we'll go and I do kind of evaluatory work and shadowing, and seeing what they're doing in regards to the 3 different sets of goals that they have and all of their placements. So, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts. It is. It's excellent. It's amazing what they do and the feedback that we're getting from organizations around town.
About reaching out part with the emails and getting out of their comfort zone and have to
Because
talk.
they are not comfortable.
They've
with
got to
that.
talk to humans. Yeah, instead of talking to this, they actually have to talk to people. That's really good stuff.
And I think that was the hardest part of all of it, at least for my kid, that was the hardest part.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So in the documents that we're looking at, when we get into the actual standards for the documents, the blue font are the new standards that you've written, is that correct?
The blue font are the learning goals.
The learning goals.
Okay.
The CTE standards are the ones that are stated at the top in black in 3.0.
Okay.
And then the blue learning goals follow that, and that is the work of the instructors in unpacking the standard. And what would this look like if I'm teaching this in the classroom? And so they design those, and sometimes some of the revisions are standards, are. But in this case, it's from 2018 to 2022, so there wasn't as much of a difference as in the other ones.
So, so my follow-up question to that is, you'll start working with these new standards next school year, and then I assume, like in most other curriculum that we look at, there's, a little bit of trial and error, right? I mean, you kind of, once you put your standards into practice and your learning goals into practice, you're gonna find some that work better than others, and you need to, so how do you anticipate reflection and response to any changes that are needed?
I track all of our learning goals and student achievement over the course of the year for all the students. And that's part of my just best practices as an instructor. Because, business and entrepreneurship is such a dynamic environment as it is. And I'm constantly speaking to everybody in industry and post-secondary, instructors and program directors. So there's constant kind of evolution that's occurring to take those standards and make them relevant in what they're seeing and doing, not just in our classrooms, but also what they're doing in their work placements, what they're doing in their own employments, and what they're doing to kind of plan their post-secondary endeavors as well. So.
You just stay on top of it.
Yes, yeah.
Not trust, but
yeah.
I understand. Thank you.
I'm very lucky to teach what I teach, where I teach it.
I think we're pretty lucky to have such enthusiastic instructors who teach what you teach.
Oh,
Yeah. Anybody have anything else for either Jason or Madison?
Thank you for being
awesome.
here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hanging out.
Yeah.
So before I go into the next set of standards, I thought I would just share with you, when you'd asked about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gina.
Okay.
Great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, they can take Madison's finance classes during their freshman year. And then just this year, I was speaking with Mark Rubentolz about doing some collaborative work, not just with Madison working with the finance stuff, but also with us in our entrepreneurial kind of endeavors, because I know there's a couple business projects that happen at the middle schools as well. So yeah, we're working on it, definitely.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
That is great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great comment, though, Gina. What a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Connery reminded me as well, part of the counseling revision was to do the comprehensive school model. And that really brought our counselors into our classrooms and through ECAPS at the high school level, but we've also worked very collaboratively with the middle school to start working on career, just quizzes and what does that look like and what is the income. And I think they're starting to hear it from just a variety of areas at home. And then when they come to the fly-in, they get to see a lot of these courses in action. And I think that's really exciting for them. And so one of the things that we do differently here at our district that I am very passionate about versus another district is we open all of our competitive CTE clubs open to freshmen, because you get that student who's very enthusiastic about the medical field and wants to go into sports medicine, but if you tell a 13-year-old he has to wait, They get antsy so they can join HOSA, and they can start to build that excitement and that camaraderie within that group in the meantime until they can join the JTED or CTE class. So those are other ways that we've kind of really supported that. And then unfortunately the pandemic had put a hold on a lot of our presentations, but we are going to start to bring back that JTED night where the teachers will be on campus and we'll bring in the community and talk about our on-campus and off-campus programs. Right?
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Well, Jason, they left. Thank you. So I wanted to just mention a little bit about the process because that question came up. And one of the things that we do and what you can see in the set of standards is that there are a set of performance scales that might be color-coded in green, and those are the technical skills and are tied directly to the technical skill standards that are provided to us by the Arizona Department of Education. Then in some of the standards, you saw that we included the art standards, and I haven't gotten to them yet. And we brought the art standards in so that those courses would be available to students for the art seal. And we want to make sure that all of our media arts, as well as our performing arts and visual arts, are part of that, so that any student taking any one of our classes can qualify for that seal. And we did that for part of our work. And so you saw there's a set of standards for that in the scales. And then the last set, which is common to all CTE courses, are the professional skill standards. And so the Arizona Department of Education also requires that teachers are teaching the professional skills around their particular careers. And so we actually looked at all of those skill standards and then wrote the learning goals based on the standards. What would this look like if we were teaching it in the classroom for the professional skills standards? And those are similar across all of the CTE courses. So you'll see anywhere from 2 to 3 sets of standards within the whole set of standards. And the beauty of working directly with the instructors on these performance scales is that they're pretty much teaching all of the courses in the pathway. So they have a really good knowledge base about what the standards are, and how they progress and become more complex as each course is added throughout the pathway. But we go through every single domain. There's a domain at the top of each scale, which is a general category area, and then each standard, and we go through each one of those for every single course. And what you'll find in some cases is that some of the standards might get repeated in the next level course, but the learning goals for them will change in complexity based on what the students will be doing in that next level course. So the process that we use to write the standards and the learning goals are similar across all of the CTE courses. We're just using different sets of technical skills standards. And depending on the course, this time we wanted to make sure that the art standards were incorporated into those that weren't there previously, so that all of those courses would qualify for the arts seal, and that wasn't the case previously. So we spend a lot of time going through all of those performance scales, looking at the learning goals, making sure that they progress from course to course, and it's pretty intense. And everyone's pretty tired by the end of each day that we work on this. But again, we're fortunate to work with instructors that are so committed to the courses that they teach, and they've taught each level. And so it makes the process really efficient and effective when we get together to do that work. So I will go on to the next set, which is Film and TV. And the courses for Film and TV 1, Film and TV 2, and Film and TV 3 were updated to reflect the Arizona Department of Education's 2019 standards, which weren't available until 2020-21. But as I noted, that the standards for each of those classes had not been updated since 2015. And they know that those standards are out there, and as Jason said, are starting to incorporate them. But we have to come together to do a formal review of the previous scales that were board adopted and then bring them back to you for adoption again with the new standards. And Film and TV 3 provides students with the opportunity to obtain the Adobe certification. So these certifications are important, that kids have these and can have the opportunity to earn these when they're taking these courses. The course standards for the film and TV courses were also updated to include the media arts standards. And so you'll see performance scales for creating, producing, responding, and connecting. And the reason I emphasize producing is because that is a major component of the media art standards for which film and TV falls under. And now that, once approved, those students taking those courses will have the opportunity to use those courses for the Arizona State Seal of Arts Proficiency. And so, as noted, you'll see that all 4 of those art standards were incorporated into all the film and TV courses. So they will be available for that art seal. Any questions about film and TV?
I just wanted, I apologize, but I had a question remaining from business development, and it may apply to other CTE areas, which is when a student is offered or can earn an industry certification, does that require course completion, taking a test? What does it take to earn a certification? How is that offered through the class?
Each certification is different. Most of the time, it's an exam.
Okay.
And it is in our level 3 courses, for example, sports medicine, we do the physical therapy technician, or they can do the MA. And so they choose the pathway they want, and that's incorporated in their academic part of the on-site class when they're not at their internship. With that said, there are some like the OSHA certification. That is like an online course. They have to put in, I think it's like 10 hours, and it's just reading and answering questions as they go. And our teachers utilize that quite a bit, especially if they know they'll be out for a sub. They'll use that OSHA certification. Sometimes it is an active, like the clinical. So for our MA and our PTT test, we do have to show that they have done some kind of clinical work too. And so Mrs. Osinga has started her Skills Wednesdays, and the kids come in scrubs, and they do those to show the mastery of those things. So they're a little bit different depending, but Adobe, for example, it's an online exam.
And is there a cost associated with those tests?
So we were very fortunate at the one point in time because we had industry certification grant, and every time a student passed it, we got $1,000, and so we were able to build up quite a bit of funds that way to sustain that. That grant has now, it is no longer with us, but it is still it's one of those unfunded mandates now. Okay. So when I budget for our CTE with it's usually our JTED funds, that is incorporated in that. So we are covering the cost for that for students because we want all students to have access to it. And one of the very fortunate things is a lot of these companies, the vouchers is a retake. So the student will have an opportunity to take the exam, and if they did not pass, kind of like our model here, they're able to retake it, and many times they pass the second time.
Great. Thank you.
Go ahead.
All of them are. This particular program, and it had changed instructors. You know, we had several instructors over a period of time for this program pathway, but all of our visual and performing arts courses are eligible. This was the one program that was left for us to incorporate the art standards, and this was the time we chose to do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And our new instructor is phenomenal. If you ever want to see magic in the making, go into his classroom. But he was given this program last year, and he's already tripled it in size. And so that is a feat, especially for a very young instructor. But the passion, you walk in, and it's, like I said, it's magical in that classroom.
And as a new instructor, he did pass along to us, this being his second year, that going actually through this standards revision process really helped clarify for him the whole process of unpacking standards and writing learning goals and figuring out what is it that students will actually be doing in the classroom. And he said it's also helping as he writes the required scope and sequence that the Arizona Department of Education requires for each of the instructors as well. So it's a pretty thorough process in terms of looking at all of the standards. But yes, I'd forgotten to mention that he's almost tripled the size of the program in 2 years, and this is the second year. And then the last one's the technical theater program, and it's made up of a number of courses: theater fundamentals, intermediate theater production, advanced theater production 1, advanced theater production 2, and then there is an internal internship theater production opportunity for some students. And so all of those courses were updated to reflect the Arizona Department of Education's 2017 standards, which were available to districts in the 2018-19 school year. And all of the standards are validated by a standards validation committee. And the first course in this pathway, Theater Fundamentals, you might recall the last time we rewrote this was during the Visual and Performing Arts revision. And we brought these to you in 2017. And we had written the course to reflect 2 different instructors. I'll just mention Carson and Norm, because some of you will remember the 2 of them. And so they worked on the Visual and Performing Arts Committee to write this course. But the students were getting the technical theater standards in one semester, and then the theater arts acting piece in another semester. Well, and Carrie and I had a conversation last year, noting that we needed to really integrate this course into one course, and it has to do with funding. We wanted to make sure that that we're meeting the guidelines that are needed by the state as well. So our work then became to take technical theater and the acting piece and to integrate them into 1 year-long course. And by the way, Amy Byrode, who teaches these courses, not only teaches all of these technical theater courses, but she's also teaching all of the theater arts courses. And so when you think about all of those courses, but the students are working together in terms of both sets of standards, because you need theater sets and you need stagecraft for acting, and then you need the actors for the technical theater piece. So they do go hand in hand in terms of thinking about integrating the technical side with the acting side. So what we had to do was then rewrite the Theater Fundamentals class to integrate the acting and technical theater side, and then we updated all of the other technical theater courses to reflect the most current standards, and those had not been updated since 2011. So that had been a while. Wow. And so it was nice to really update all of those courses and bring them to life based on the new sets of standards. But again, I'm just going to go back to what Jason said. They're aware of when when changes are being made in standards at the state level, and they're already thinking about and integrating some of that. But now we formally have done that for all 10 courses in all 3 programs, and then with the addition of the Business Management 2 option, we've done the standards revision for 11 courses this semester. I wanted to mention too that it's pretty unusual for us to bring the standards like this to you in the fall, and we are bringing them to you early because the high school is going to be going through what is called an Arizona Department of Education Quality and Compliance Monitoring, and it is scheduled for fall of 2024. We don't have an exact date for that monitoring yet, but the high school is required to have all of their standards documents and their scope and sequence documents, all of this uploaded this spring with the Arizona Department of Education, so that everything is ready in preparation for this fall monitoring that will happen at the beginning of next school year. In addition, we have to make the current program standards available and accessible to students, parents, guardians, and the public at large. And so once approved after the second reading, We will then make sure that all of these new standards are all available on the website that can be accessed by, anybody really in the world once we put it on the website. But we are required to do that. And I don't know, do you want to say anything else about the monitoring, Carrie? It's just something we have to go through every so many years, and
it is, and I believe that our partnership with Pima JTED has made this. It's brought together every district because we wanted to come together and say, well, if you walk into a TUSD classroom and you walk into Catalina Foothills, you're going to see the similar documents. And so that way they see there's quality programs all throughout Pima County, and that helps us keep our relationship with Pima JTED, who is pretty much the sole supporter of our programs, because our grants don't bring in as many funds, because that's what it's really going to affect. And so we've really, all of my colleagues throughout Pima County have really built a lot of these systems together, and I think that's been helpful for us to just, I think we're ready to do it. We are one of the last. They started with Phoenix about 2 years ago, so they fine-tuned everything, and so I think we're ready. And if anything, it just improves our best practice is really what it's meant to do. And the one thing I will say on that too is there's 2 programs that will be reviewed but not necessarily scored, and that will be our early childhood and our computer programming, because they have not been in effect for 3 years because our computer programming, we sunsetted it for a year. So they will be reviewed to give us feedback, but those 2 won't count in the monitor.
And so nobody else is required to do the performance scales the way we do these in CFSD, but the performance scales, what the instructors have said, are helping them as they put together their units on the required scope and sequences that they have to complete for the Arizona Department of Education. So it helps them to unpack the standards, understand them, figure out what this will look like in the classroom, and then they take those and put them into units on their scope and sequence, similar to what our other subject areas do with an annual plan. It's just called a scope and sequence for career and technical education. But Carrie had mentioned last spring that this monitoring was coming up and that these revisions had to be done, and so we promised her we would take care of it this first semester,
There you are.
this fall, so that they would have everything that they need for the monitoring and everything to upload right away when second semester begins. And that was it.
So, Mary Jo, I have a quick question for you. Jason mentioned that, he keeps apprised of standards as they change, and basically this process is putting into our curriculum documents stuff that we're probably already doing but hasn't been codified, if you will, into our curriculum documents. What is that mechanism? Because obviously there's a lag with the 2017 standards not being available for a couple of years. What's the mechanism by which we keep apprised of those changes so that we can make changes as we go along, even before the curriculum process is done?
Carrie's one of them, and then there is a website. The AD has a website with all of this, and I know that every semester I checked it in my role, and seeing what was new and available. But Carrie is the one who has direct contact with me and now Cheryl about which programs need to be updated and which ones are working through this process.
I do attend about 4 Arizona Department of Education meetings a year, and then they go through the updates at that point in time. But they always start by inviting our teachers to be part of the process. And so they've just brought out the new cycle of the courses that they'll be reviewing the standards for, and they look for CTE directors to nominate teachers to help write that. And so one that is coming up is early childhood, so I did send that information to our instructor. But really, I think what Jason was referring to is every year we give the TSA, the Technical Skills Assessment, and that's typically done in the second year of our program. And within that, then they are giving the data, and it's like what standards are we just not meeting, or which ones are we exceeding? And I think that's when Jason says he's just kind of, got the heartbeat there. He's seeing where he needs to improve or enhance some of it, because we're not meeting with questions that are on the exam. But again, that's just the floor, because we're also doing these industry certifications, and so we're not teaching to any test. We're just ensuring that we are meeting the standards. And so there's multiple ways, but I always inform the instructors if they want to be part of the process, because they always say, we don't like these questions. And I said, well, let's be part of the process then. And so I think after some of this curriculum revision, they're eager to now be on some of these committees because they've gone through this work.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to mention too that we're now in process with working on the Early Childhood Education 2 course, but we'll bring that back to you next semester because that's a new program. And we do have some revisions to make in the first year of the theater, the first year theater course, acting, because it was separated, you know, into a semester of acting and a semester of technical standards. And so we have to revise that first year class as well, but we'll bring those back to you second semester. These were the important ones that we need to get done for this semester to help them get ready for their monitoring.
Well, I think I say this every time we do a curriculum review in our board meeting, that it's just, I can't imagine going through this process. It's a lot to think about just listening to the end product. So actually going through the process, I know that it's a very, very labor-intensive thing. A lot of hours go into this. I agree that it's a great learning opportunity for the folks that do participate in it, but that said, it's also a very grueling process. So we do appreciate that. We appreciate the amount of work that goes into creating documents like this. And we thank you, and we thank you for being here this evening to talk about them with us as well.
Thank you.
This, of course, will come back to us on December, is it 14th? Is that our meeting date? 12th, December 12th, and we'll see them again.
You will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us so late tonight. All right. Item 6.2, selection of delegates to the ASBA annual membership meeting. This is an action item for this evening. Is anyone planning on going to the annual meeting in December?
I'm gonna be out of town, actually.
Yeah.
So I can't go, but we are receiving an award.
Are we?
Yes. Did you not see that? Did anyone? Gina, did you see that email? Okay. I'm not making.
I didn't see the email, no.
Boardsmanship award for, we have, for our hours of
continuing education.
So
That's good.
I guess nobody's gonna be there to accept it.
I can't sign up for anything right now.
No, you can't. And this is the annual membership meeting on Thursday, December 7th, and I don't know that I can do that on that day.
Doug just left at a very convenient
Didn't he
time.
though?
Didn't he?
He likes to do that.
He like walked out of the room.
That was tricky.
Doug, would you like to be our delegate at the annual organizational meeting?
I think Gina said something.
Gina. Gina.
We may need you, Doug.
We need you, Doug.
What's the date?
December 7th. It's a Thursday.
Where are we?
In Phoenix. I know.
At the Biltmore, though.
At the Biltmore. I just sent an email.
Quite as exciting to you as it is to all of us.
Is it, the delegate meeting, they always change it, don't they? Like, so the delegate meeting, this is the annual business meeting where they elect officers.
Next year's officers.
Which is kind of interesting
This
in light
year
of
it would
some
be,
of the hullabaloo about ASBA. So it's on a Thursday, but did you say it's in the evening? So the actual conference is Thursday, Friday? Is that right?
That's what I'm looking for the email for
I
because
have
our memo is
I have
not
it, I have
telling
it.
us
Have
this.
No.
We're getting an award, so we need someone to accept our award.
Congratulations. Because of your board's commitment to professional development, your whole board is being recognized for earning the Total Boardsmanship Award at our upcoming ASBA 66th Annual Conference. Granted to a board when at least a quorum of members has attended the level of a Certificate of Boardmanship, with the remainder of the board having earned the Certificate of Orientation to Boardmanship following the attendance of ASBA's new board member orientation. Thank you, Gina. In 1992, the Board of Directors of the Arizona School Boards Association adopted the Academy of Boardmanship program
to recognize the professional development of local governing board members. The awards given under this program are recognition of significant accomplishments in ASBA-sponsored continuing legal education, not legal. I said that because in my head, I have continuing and education, and I stick legal in between. Sorry. Continuing education and training. The award winners listed below will be recognized on Friday, December 8th at the Tribute to Leadership beginning at 8:30 a.m., held in conjunction with the conference. And then we're all named, which is so nice.
Yeah, and so actually that's different than the organizational meeting or the business meeting that we're looking for a delegate for.
Right.
Which would be on the 7th of December. With none of us going to this conference, and I know that doesn't sound really good, but we have over the years spent a lot of time going to this conference in December.
Yes.
And our consensus has generally been that the more what's the right word? The more beneficial conference for us to be attending is the law conference that we generally go to in September of each year. The annual conference is a little bit more like a celebratory year-end kind of thing, a little bit less informative to us. And it's a difficult time of year. So for the last couple of years, we have not gone to the annual conference. So
We have sent a delegate.
But we have sent a delegate to the business meeting on and what we're talking about here is this delegate for December 7th.
And that's in the,
And that's what I'm looking for here.
oh, that's what you're looking for, and I read something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you read the
email.
event for the award, and it does look like none of us will be there for that. But what I'm looking for is when is that business meeting on the 7th? And I'm not finding it, and it's not in the cover memo.
And I think it's good to know our administrators don't go unless we go. So it
Right.
brings other people.
Right.
That's they need to be there. If we go, then.
Yeah. Where is the business meeting? ASBA member, let's see, ASBA membership meetings.
Here, I've got it.
You have it?
Now it's like a race. There's some dudes in a Phillies cap on their website. They have a lot of districts give presentations on innovative things they do in their district, which is great, except for we don't plan our curriculum as a board. We don't get involved in what's being taught in the classroom. And so it seems like a waste of time to me at least, although they have good swag, which Amy really likes.
She does like the swag. Here it is. Election of officers will take place on Thursday, December 7th at 3:30 p.m. at the annual ASBA membership meeting. Is anyone available to be there? I am not.
I am not.
No?
No, I have no
I know you
idea.
can't. I know you can't. Doug, are you available to be there?
I could drive up after work. I wouldn't
You
spend
want to,
For 3:30?
you want to spend the night and then get the boardsmanship award for us all at 8:30 the next morning?
I can't. I gotta work.
Come
I gotta
on.
work on the 8th.
Don't you, come on.
Wait till 24 when I'm
photo op.
retired. I would go to all these.
On when, what date?
In 2024, he says.
I want you to know that not only did you say that in front of all of these witnesses, it's also recorded.
I'll do it next year.
Exactly.
I'm
Okay.
done in May.
Exactly.
I'm forcibly retired in May this year, so I would love to go spend the night at the Biltmore.
Yeah.
But
There's a virtual option.
Is there? Oh, look at Carol.
What I'm looking for.
good job, Carol. We sent Carol.
Carol's still keeping us in line.
I think we should send Carol.
Can she go? Can we nominate Carol?
I think we can. I don't.
It says ASBA Online Officer Voting Guide, but it's the online guide. I'm not seeing anything here that says that there is an opportunity to do this virtually. Where did you find that, Carol?
This will be a virtual meeting and is open to all ASBA members. They're
Wow,
encouraged
great.
To attend
Problem solved. I still can't do it, but.
from 3 to 4:30.
Oh, well, if it's virtual, I'm your guy.
All right.
Really?
Sure,
I mean,
why
it's- yeah, I'm around. I just don't want to drive to Phoenix and then drive home.
I
that
know.
same
I hear
night.
you, yeah.
I did that once.
Thank you very much.
You can sit on a shift and do it.
Carol saves the day.
I'm still reading and I don't see that. I don't know where you're finding it, but I believe you, Carol.
Turns out we can virtual. I'm your guy.
Okay. So, somebody want to make a motion for Doug to represent us virtually at this thing?
I don't know where we're at.
You can always switch it off if it turns out you can't.
You'll find it.
Good.
second myself, sure, second.
Okay. All those in favor of Doug representing the district at the annual business meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate it.
You're gonna have so much fun, you're gonna wanna do every one.
So we'll have to make sure that you get the information on how to log into that meeting.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to item 7, discussion and reports.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
No,
please?
I did not.
Okay. 7.1, fiscal year 2025 draft budget process. Can't believe we're here already. And I'm going to turn this back over to Denise Bartlett.
So this document should look familiar to most. I know,
Very.
Gina, this is probably new to you. So we will review this thoroughly. So this is our maintenance and operations budget planning process that we will undertake. This is very similar. We've used this process for many years. It starts now. It has started already. It actually started in September with reconciliation of our salaries and wages. And that is ongoing now, and that happens from September. We always want it done by February. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But that's our first step in the budget process. And then we revise our fiscal year 24 budgets and revenues and expenditures based on updated assumptions and responsibilities. So myself and Lisa Tatel, the Director of Finance, are currently working on that reconciliation. Then through November through March, we analyze all areas of the budget, the budgeted versus actual. We review any Arizona legislative proposals impacting K-12 education to budget for those and determine the budget assumptions to establish that 25 baseline. So, in March and April of 2024, we finalize the fiscal 25 straw budget proposal. Again, that will be Dr. Cameronzell, myself, and Lisa Tatel, the Director of Finance. Then on March 26th, this is where some specific steps come in, and these are timelined out. On March 26th, we'll non-renew our professional staff with 1-year contracts. If you remember, it is our practice to non-renew all of our first-year teachers. I know that's not your favorite thing to do, but it's a critical part of our budgeting process. Then on April 9th, we present the budget proposal to the governing board for your review. We also approve employee salaries, wages, and benefits. We will also offer the first round of professional staff contracts and addenda. And we will lastly, on April 23rd, we will offer the second round of contracts to our certified staff. Then April to May, we present budget proposal information to key stakeholder groups. So we start communicating that budget proposal out to all of our stakeholders. And April and June, we conduct a regular and special board meeting as needed to finalize our fiscal year 25 budget. And June or July, we approve that fiscal year 25 budget. Then we post our proposed 25 budget for public review in June or July. June 13th, we approve the notices for our notice of appointments for our classified staff. And then on June or July, we conduct a public hearing and adopt the fiscal 25 budget. And then June or July, we submit that adopted budget to the Arizona Department of Education. So it's a similar process. It's the same process we've used for many years. It seems to work well. Of course, it all is hinged upon that reconciliation. That starts the whole process. And we're currently about 40% complete. We will work to get that complete as soon as we can.
Will you remind me, I feel like in the past we've talked about moving up dates for offering teacher contracts in order to be more competitive, but there was a reason we didn't do that, and I can't remember what it was.
Well, oftentimes it's because of the reconciliation and our, we have executive sessions to discuss salary and wage.
Yes.
So if we get the reconciliation done and we know what we're working with, and if we get the money, the budget amount from the state, we're always ambitious in wanting to move that up, but we haven't been able to. Also, the other real reason is we don't get our new benefits information, our new renewals in a timely manner to offer prior to this.
Okay.
Our medical insurance, they never give it before March 1.
And I think we have talked about what other districts do. They will either issue a contract that has a blank in the salary or the same salary and
Right.
expect people to sign a contract where they have no assurance of what their salary is going to be, which in my mind is not the right way to do business.
It's not really, I don't think it would be accepted in our
Probably not.
in our district. It's just not what we've done, and they've come to expect the way we have accomplished this. So,
No, I agree, I wouldn't be comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
that would just be, it would be quite odd, I think.
No.
And just to make the comment on the non-renewal process of people with one-year contracts who are grant-based, who are part-time,
correct.
the vast majority of those are eventually offered contracts as we get forward in the process and know what our needs are going to be.
Correct.
So it's not like a mass firing of a bunch of people by any means. And our people know that, at least people who've been here longer than a year. We have to very much communicate with those first-year contract people so they understand this.
They get a hand-delivered letter.
Yes.
Their administrator talks with them in
Yes.
person, lets them know that if there is a job for them, they are recommended that they will be hired. And they usually give them that second, they get the contract on that second offering.
Yeah.
So it's not a long wait for them. They don't
Right.
have to wait all summer. It's just another 2 weeks that they have to wait.
Right.
So we're not, is it safe to say we're not losing staff in those 2 weeks?
We,
Oh.
not
Good.
a large amount. No.
You know, one thing I never really, and maybe I just am now noticing it for the first time, we don't approve notices of appointment for classified and support personnel until June, mid-June. Do we have difficulty in retaining people because we haven't done those appointments for so long?
Not typically. The principals have conversations with all of those staff members before they leave for the summer, so they know basically that they're going to have that job. It's just the matter of getting their appointment at that later time. So we don't really have a lot of, I mean, we do have turnover in our classified staff.
Sure.
But we don't have, it's not the cause of, this is
Of
not
the
the cause of
turnover,
that.
okay.
No.
And just historically, why do we do it so late? Relatively late, I should say. I'm not sure.
I think we just wait to get through our certified staff, and then we go through our classified staff. We just waited. I don't know, actually, the real.
But we're not feeling like this is, I mean, because we have had issues with filling some of those positions, but it's not because of this issue. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Other questions? Gina? Doug? Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, yeah, it wouldn't be this school
Correct.
year.
It wouldn't be for the 25.
It's part of our longstanding settlement, which means they talk about it, but they never actually fund it.
Right.
Yeah.
We always cross our fingers.
Always. Okay, any other questions on budget process? It will be here before we know it.
Fun.
It's already starting for
I
us.
know. All right,
The bread and butter of our work.
we'll move on to 7.2, Arizona Legislative Governmental Activity. Nice segue into that, Gina. Anything else under this category?
You know, I meant to mention 2 weeks ago, but I forgot. I was so happy to see the school districts in well, I was gonna say Pima County, but I
Really?
don't think it was throughout, because I don't think some of the more, but the passage of bonds and overrides in Flowing Wells, Sunnyside,
TUSD, they haven't done one in
TUSD. I was
20 years.
It really, I mean, it made me so happy to think of
Absolutely.
this funding coming in, so badly needed for all the schools and the students and their, I mean, and I thought it was, I took it, I'm talking about being an eternal optimist, Gina, I took it as a real statement of support of public education, you know, and I was just really thrilled by that.
Absolutely.
That was great news.
You know, it's funny, we are so used to having ours passed,
Right?
and sometimes forget that very few
Yeah.
districts have that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So that was cool. That was all I had.
Anything else, folks? Future agenda considerations? Amy and Amy are gonna handle agenda planning tomorrow, which I assume will be telephonic.
With Dr. Bartlett.
Oh, are you gonna do it? Okay, gotcha. So if you have anything that you would like dealt with in agenda planning, get in touch with one of the Amy's. And Gina, to that effect, I think Amy Kraus is scheduled for December 13th. And since she's doing tomorrow, do you want to slide into December 13th if you're able? Let me know. Just, yeah, let us know. Okay. All right, well, if there are no other comments under future agenda considerations, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Adjourn.
We have a motion? And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned. Thank you all in the audience for hanging out with us for so long.
Thank you.
It's a pretty momentous board meeting.
It was. Congratulations.